I probably look a little different, mostly because of this little sucker right here, but also the fact that I'm wearing my dad shirt. Take it all in. Enjoy the dad shirt. So, for a while now, hey Nathan, for a while now, I've had a few different subscribers asking me about discussing a particular game. And I've been putting it off mostly because, work's been stressful and I had a vacation and I'm back at work and it's just, I didn't know if I wanted to talk about it. But I do ultimately need to talk about it. What game would that be? Well, let's get old Resident Evil 3 Remake. So, if you've been watching my channel for a while, you know that I don't typically do anything on my channel in a time frame that matches up with anybody else. I typically do things when I want to do them, and people just have to deal with the consequences of that. So, pretty much, I was thinking that I wanted to talk about Resident Evil 3 after a lot of the controversy had died down. And now, with the controversy of The Last of Us 2 going, I think it's a good time to discuss it. So, there's a lot of problems with Resident Evil 3, but there's also a lot of other things that I want to go over in my video. For instance, a lot of arguments made by people that don't know what they're talking about that quite frankly piss me off. So if you're in the mood for a bit of a rant, you're going to get one in this video. But you're also going to get my unbiased discussion on Resident Evil 3 Remake, or Resident Evil 3 Nemesis Remake, or whatever it's going by at this time. So, get your popcorn, get your soda, and enjoy an actual video from me for once. First and foremost, let's go ahead and get the rant out of the way. One of the biggest things that I saw being discussed when Resident Evil 3 came out was, it's too short. And I'll be really honest with you, I'm sick and tired of this narrative. Not just in regards to Resident Evil 3, but in regards to video games in general. I'm sick and tired of baseline troglodyte reviewers complaining about the length of video games. Let me be very, very clear. Video games do not have a standard for how long they should be. Film has a standard, music has a standard, I think even books have a certain number of pages before you get into the novellas. But when it comes to video games, they can be a wide range of different lengths and still be valuable and still have a certain price tag. You sit there and you listen to a song and it's 3 to 4 minutes long, and you're like, this is a nice song. If it's shorter than that or longer than that, you notice that's not normal. If you're sitting there and watching a film, it's about 2 hours long. If it's shorter than that or if it's longer than that, you're like, this is unusual, because Endgame was like 3 hours long. That's because those media have a standard for how long they should be for the bang for your buck. Video games don't have that. Whenever I go in to purchase a video game, I'm not sitting there, thinking, man, I hope I get this arbitrary number of hours out of this purchase. No, I'm sitting there thinking about character interactions, story, level design, extra goodies. I'm thinking about, what kind of scenarios the game will put me through. I'm not sitting there going, gee, golly gosh, I hope that this is at least this number of hours so I don't feel like I wasted my fucking money. I'm sick and tired of this dumbass narrative from reviewers that games are either too short or too long. If you're thinking about IGN and that debacle they had with Wolfenstein, Wolfenstein The New Order is just a little too long. Maybe you're just a little too fucking bad at video games. I'm so sick and tired of it, and I get it. It was funny the first few times Angry Joe was like 4 hours long, but it got so tedious. Stop bitching about how long or how short video games are. Stop thinking that there's some arbitrary timestamp on what amount of time a video game should be in order for you to be like, I didn't waste my money. Because I bought Resident Evil 3 brand spanking new and I got every dollar value out of it. And I'll elaborate on that in a minute. But when you go to buy a video game, you go to buy, say, the new Call of Duty versus Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition, you're going to get a difference in how long you're playing each of these video games. Doesn't mean one's better than the other. It means that they're giving you different experiences. You're not paying for the fucking arbitrary time frame. You're paying for the experience. You dumb fucks. Anywho, no, Resident Evil 3 is not too short. Resident Evil 3 is exactly the length of time it needs to be for you to get the experience that they wanted you to have. It's also designed in such a way, like older Resident Evils, like 1, 2, Code Veronica, in which you can speed through the game on a second playthrough to get a better time frame and better unlocks. That's what's going on here. You see, these dumb reviewers never actually thought about old school games and how, before we spent our credit card and all these unlockables, that we used to go through games and we used to get good time frames and get good skill ratings and kill enemies and not save too much, and we could unlock stuff in game instead of using our hard-earned dollars. No, the reviewers don't think about that bullshit. They're just like, oh, the game seems a little short. I spent this much money and then I sped through it really fucking fast so I can get my review out before everybody else and get that lovely ad revenue money, and it just feels a little short, so I'm gonna bitch about it in my video. I'm so fucking sick of these people. They're dumb cunts. But no, Resident Evil is not too short. There are issues with it in regards to cut content, which I'll go over right now. So, Resident Evil 3 Nemesis has some cut content. I'm not too choked up about the lack of the graveyard or Central Park. I don't care about the Gravedigger boss, even though he was really creepy. What I'm bothered by mostly is the lack of the inclusion of the clock tower. The clock tower was a major section of the game that had a lot of interesting puzzles and a lot of really cool stuff going on in it. But it's not there anymore. Another section that I didn't notice my first time playing that's not really there anymore is the Dead Factory. Before you get into the lab proper, you explore a dead factory. And that's not there either. Now, are these lacks... if I can speak English, are these... is the lacking of these areas, is this cut content detrimental to the game overall? No. But it can contribute to how some reviewers would have viewed the game as being too short. So I can get why people are irritated about it. I feel like the game did an adequate job at what it was presenting us. For instance, some of the revamped areas. Instead of Jill going to the police station, now it's Carlos going to the police station. I like that. That's a different in design. It gives me a different experience. It also lets me see how some of the scenarios from Resident Evil 2 played out. It's good shit. I like it. Also, you not only do you visit the hospital with Carlos, but you also visit the hospital with Jill. For instance, in the original Resident Evil 3, once Carlos left the hospital, it blew up and you could never go back to it. However, in this remake, you're not blowing up the entire hospital. You're sealing off the front so that the horde doesn't come in, and then later Jill is able to explore the hospital that you just explored, unlocking goodies with her lockpick that Carlos couldn't access. I don't know about you guys, but that seems like an added gameplay element to me. I like that. It teased you the whole way through with Carlos going, oh man, I can't get these goodies. And then you're like, oh shit, I can play as Jill and get these goodies. There is cut content. There are some areas that are not there anymore. But overall, I didn't have a huge problem with it. I thought it was pretty good. But those issues aren't really my biggest problem with Resident Evil 3. My biggest problem with Resident Evil 3 is really how they handled Nemesis. Now let's be clear. Nemesis is iconic at this point. He is one hell of a character. And with Resident Evil 3, the original, Nemesis was a force of nature. He was designed in such a way you'd always hit a trigger, but it wasn't like every single instance with him was a set piece moment. There were moments where you would come across Nemesis just wandering the streets of Raccoon City, and it was always intense. You do, of course, have those actual set piece moments, like when he's supposed to encounter you in either the diner or in the office building. You have those moments where he has to encounter you on the train. You have those moments where you have to fight him here. This is where you fight him. But there were so many moments in which you didn't have to fight him, or you could fight him. You had choice. You had options. You had avenues in which you could go. Literal avenues in case when you run down a street to try to get away from him. In the remake, Nemesis feels heavily scripted. And I was worried that they were going to make Nemesis about as annoying as Mr. X was. Now, don't get me wrong, Mr. X is scary. If you watch my playthrough of Resident Evil 2, Mr. Big Stompy Boots freaked me the fuck out the entire time. But Nemesis is so heavily scripted. I never felt like he was just randomly there. Every single time Nemesis showed up, I felt like it was an intent. I mean, of course, they're all intentionally designed, but I thought it was an intentional scripted moment. And that's a problem. Because the original game isn't. How do I word this? The original game doesn't feel bigger than the remake. But there were so many more opportunities for Nemesis to show up. I'm sure that there's a comparison video out there somewhere that shows the number of encounters you have with Nemesis in the original game versus the number of encounters you have with him in the new game. And it just feels like he doesn't show up enough. And for a game that has his name as the subtitle, as the moniker, that's a real problem. I feel like Nemesis wasn't prominent in his game. I feel like Nikolai showed up more than Nemesis did. And I hate that. I really do. But let's be clear. Those are my only really big issues with Resident Evil 3 Nemesis. Everything else about the game is fucking fantastic. So if you haven't played Resident Evil 3 yet and you're curious, Resident Evil 3 is basically just like Resident Evil 2. It's running off a similar engine. I think it might be the same engine. It has similar gameplay styles. It has an actual dodge mechanic, which I never knew that I wanted in Resident Evil 2, because holy crap. Them perfect dodges, though. It is a over-the-shoulder, third-person shooter with puzzles and a lot of really neat little explorative details. Like, I don't think it's as explorative as Resident Evil 2 was, because let's be clear, Resident Evil 3 is a little bit more linear, a little bit more streamlined, a little bit more A to B, but you still have that element of exploration when you're going through certain levels, like the hospital or the streets of Raccoon City in the early game. But I really enjoyed it. I had a lot of fun just going through and exploring, finding goodies, fighting monsters. Everything about the gameplay of Resident Evil 3 is really solid. Even more so than Resident Evil 2's remake. I'll be honest. I like that the weapon powder, the gunpowder returns as a mechanic. I like that, you know, you can fight Nemesis like in the original game and get your weapon upgrades, which I actually missed one on my first playthrough, which you guys saw. I liked that, you know, you have the ability to dodge, and not only dodge, but perfect dodge, and it'll slow time down and you can get some free hits in on the enemy. That's good shit. All of that was incredibly enjoyable. The story is really good. I like some of the changes that have been made in regards to characters. Nikolai. Yeah, I just woke up and I was fighting that. You can tell when I'm fighting a yawn. You can tell. Nikolai was always a bastard. He's a bastard in other mediums too, like Operation Raccoon City. But I feel like in this remake, they made him a little over-the-top evil. Like, it's not bad. His characterization is not bad, but he's a little bit more over the top. In the original, you know, characters died just by happenstance from him. But in this remake, he straight up shoots a dude in the face before he's even turned. That's a bit much. Jill, that's a huge red flag there. But the changes in characterization with Carlos, those are actually pretty good. I like that he is definitely a little bit less stereotypical. I don't know. Something about his original iteration, I didn't like the accent at all. And I like that instead of being overtly flirty, he's playful in this one. He jokes. Talking about leaving Jill in a cold, cruel, Carlosless world. That's some good banter. I enjoyed that. On the other hand, the other character, I can't remember his name. And I don't want to be insensitive in our current times, but The black guy, I don't really feel like he had as much characterization as he could have. He definitely has more characterization than he did in the original game, considering he had like 2 lines and then died. But I did like the actor that portrayed him. I can't remember the name of the actor either, but I've seen him in a few different video games, and he's good. On the other hand, you have at the very beginning of the game, you've got Brad Vickers, and his portrayal is awful. Absolutely awful. I don't like that they tried to make Brad Vickers into some sort of, heroic character when he's a fucking coward that left Olive Star's team for hours in the Spencer Mansion. You need to die. I do like, however, they use Brad Vickers as a means to infect Marvin Branagh. That is some shit. That is some shit that is not only canon because it shows up in, I believe, Outbreak. It shows up in one of the Outbreak games. But it's also really interesting to see like the last bit of humanity come through Brad Vickers and apologize because he's about to bite Marvin. That is some good shit. That was really well executed. And of course, true to form, Brad Vickers was hard to put down. You had, Mikhail? Mikhail. They made him a little bit more of a badass, and I liked that. I never felt like Mikhail was the head of the squad in the original game. I always felt like Nikolai was supposed to be the head of the squad. But I liked the banter between Mikhail and Nikolai. I liked that Mikhail knew that Nikolai was a piece of shit, and he knew that he, fucked those guys up. And, Mikhail went out like a badass and blew the shit out of Nemesis again, which is pretty cool. But yeah, the characterization was pretty damn good. I liked all of them. They were all pretty interesting. I enjoyed just getting Jill. I enjoyed acclimating to the new Jill because let's be real. Again, old Resident Evil, there wasn't much characterization, but I know what Jill Valentine is like because I played as her all the way up until just a few years ago. I hate yawning in videos, and I hate yawning twice in videos. Anywho, I played as. Let me sit that down. I played as Jill in quite a few different video games and quite a few recent video games. All the way up until Resident Evil Revelations. So I know what she's like. But this new iteration of Jill is also really interesting. It's right after the Spencer incident. It's got to be a few months after the Spencer incident, and she obviously has PTSD because of her nightmares. She is, affected by what's happened. She's still technically, human. She is vulnerable. And so, I like her banter between the characters. I like seeing her interact, and I liked the moments where she was just a little bit of a badass. Like the moment when everybody's given this moment shit, talked badly about it, but the moment when she pulls the railgun and fires it, everybody's like, oh, how is she even able to do that? You do realize she got infected with the Chi virus, right? You do realize she got vaccinated, right? You do realize now she's superhuman, right? That factors. Resident Evil 5, she's superhuman. But yeah, there are moments when she's just a complete badass. And the moment when she leaves Nikolai behind is also pretty badass too. Because she is a police officer. She's a detective. I like that. All of this game was really fun for me. When I first heard that they were going to be remaking Resident Evil 2, I was worried. And Resident Evil 2 pretty much took all of my fears and threw them out the window in regards to game design, gameplay, story, all of that. Because they did such a fantastic job. And I feel like Resident Evil 3 got shit on even though it was just as equally a fantastic job. It is a good goddamn video game. Do not listen to the shitty reviewers. Do not listen to the dumbass critics. Do not listen to the people that are like, it was too short. You don't know how to play video games. You don't know what you're talking about. If you to this day still haven't played Resident Evil 3, if you're one of those people that's like, I'm going to wait for what Brett Hicks has to say, my recommendation is go get it right now. Because it's so damn good. I had a hell of a lot of fun with it. I have replayed it several times, and I can't help but recommend you check it out. Because it is good. And I desperately want them to redo Code Veronica in this way. Hell, I'll go a little bit further. Don't tell anybody I said this, okay? This is between you and me, alright? I'm not opposed to them going all the way back to the drawing board and remaking Resident Evil 1 in this new style. Because it's that good. I have been so concerned for so long about over-the-shoulder Resident Evil because it wasn't handled properly. But they have it proper now. The mechanics from Resident Evil 2 are still there. When you are moving, your reticule does a certain, level of accuracy. When you're standing still, it does complete accuracy. The zombies have just the right amount of crunch. They're not bullet spongy, but they are hard to put down. The fear is there. The monsters are visceral and interesting. And it's just so goddamn good. The only thing that they need to do is remake fucking Code Veronica. And I would like them to remake the original Resident Evil because we've already remade the game. Remake it again. I don't care. We had a remake before that remake on fucking DS, which I still haven't gotten to play. I want to play Resident Evil Deadly Silence so bloody bad it makes my head explode. But Resident Evil 3 Nemesis on the PS4, the Xbox One, and PC is a good experience. If you have yet to play it, I can't help but recommend you check it out. It is a lot of bloody fun. I enjoyed it thoroughly. There are issues. There is some cut content. There are problems I have with how Nemesis was handled. But overall, the game is so much fun. And let's be real, Nemesis is completely a Bloodborne enemy when he becomes second phase. So, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. It took me a while to make it, but I really wanted the chaos to die down because I don't like having my shit compared to other people's stuff. I like for you guys to get my opinion, to get my viewpoint, to hear my words, instead of just comparing it to other people or, hearing fucking Angry Joe's voice bleed through my video and you'd be like, well, he said this. I don't give a fuck what he said. I used to like his videos and I don't now. But that's mostly because he got way too hung up on the money instead of talking about video games. But I'm not going to sit here and shit on him. We all got to make money. I have an actual job. He doesn't. But I enjoyed Resident Evil 3. I hope you enjoyed the video. I do eventually intend to do some more Let's Play content in regards to Resident Evil. I'm just trying to think of whether or not... I'm trying to think of which game I want to do next. And I'll be honest, I have really been hankering Code Veronica so bad. So I might play that next. Or I might play any other number of games that I should be playing for the channel. For instance, requests that have been made over and over and over again. But we will see. Again, though, I hope you enjoyed the video. And if you did, please do like the video. Leave me a comment. If you played Resident Evil 3 Nemesis, let me know what you thought. What were your grievances? What did you wish would have gone in that didn't go in? Do you miss any of the cut content or cut monsters? And, yeah. Take care. I'll see you in the next video.